Your DNA doesn't just sit there as something you had from birth. It is always active, it's always working, and it does things. 3% of it got identified. Now, what about the rest? The overwhelming majority of all the parts. And they said they had no idea. They could not figure out any codes. And therefore, it's so interesting. If you're a smart scientist and you can't figure out something, what do you normally say? Well, someday we will. Well, perhaps we just haven't arrived at code breaking yet. But instead, almost universally, they threw up their hands and they said, it's junk. It must have been left over from past evolutionary processes. That is interesting to me. So if you can't figure it out, therefore, it's junk. I have a little exercise for you. It's one of your imagination. It's something fun. You're in the 1800s, and a time traveler appears, and he says hello, and it's obviously that he's traveling through time, and he made a mistake, because he opens his book and some pages fall out and bam, he vanishes to the time he wanted to go to. And on the floor, after he's gone, you see the pages he's left and you look at it and go, this is stupid. It's ridiculous. What he's left is a QR code. Now, some of you know what a QR code is. That's the code that you might point at with your smartphone and you get a menu at a restaurant. Not all that profound, perhaps. But if you were in the 1800s and you happened to be in a laboratory and this had happened and you'd seen it with your own eyes, you'd say, an angel appeared or somebody from the future appeared and has left us a message. Have you looked at a QR code? Where do you begin? Without any idea of the 5 or 6 or 7 inventions that have to then build on one another to finally create a code, understand the code, and then translate the code, including that which has to translate, which is, of course, the smartphone, and all that it does with the artificial intelligence that it has. How are you going to look at it? What code breaker in the 1800s do you think could figure out a QR code? Who do you think could do that? And the answer is probably no one in the world. Because they didn't have access yet to things that had not been discovered or invented or figured out. I like to pretend that they could figure it out. This is me being funny. They figure it out and they say, oh my goodness, those from the future gave us a menu to Sam's restaurant. What is the meaning of this? Do you see my point? Junk DNA, you couldn't figure it out, so it became junk. Well, luckily, in 2012, they figured it out. Perhaps you didn't know that. There is no such thing anymore as junk DNA. They found out what over 90% of DNA did. Dear ones, it didn't make anything. It was an instruction manual for the rest. Everything they saw there had pieces and parts of language in it. The kinds of code breakers that were most, I would say, ready to help figure this out and did were linguists. They showed that it had to be a language. So it became something like libraries filled with books. So the instructions, what is in your DNA? And here are the instructions. And here is where I want to tell you something that you probably are aware of now. In that place is revealed. If you could read those instructions, which they cannot, they simply now understand what it might be. When they start reading the instructions, when they start breaking that code, I wonder if they'll release it. It'll talk about your Akash, what you've experienced in other lifetimes. It'll have the feelings in the codes that you now are working with. But the big one, it'll talk about the multidimensional 24th pair of chromosomes that you have from the stars. Very well seen and identified if they could look at the codes and they knew what they meant. That will come someday. This, dear ones, will be the proof of all the eye-rolling things that I've been telling you for so long, that there's so much more to the human being than biology. There's a lineage that belongs to the stars that's beautiful. And this lineage is starting to open. This 24th pair of chromosomes is starting as a time capsule to be opened. Not that you're going to remember you were from the stars. You're going to start remembering what they gave you. A deeper wisdom, knowledge of things that are to come, an understanding perhaps of why you're here, a feeling of peace when you don't have one now. This is the beginning, just the beginning. My prediction, someday they will be able to read that code. Right now it's just like a QR code to them. But when they can, revelation will be here. And they're going to have to think very, very, very hard before they reveal it. But I think you're going to be ready for it. This is just another channel to show your magnificence of who you are, and what might be coming. Congratulations on making it to this point of light. And so it is.